can hear me, if you can hear me, you can put the likes up um, so that we all start. Gerard, can you hear me? Oh, fantastic. Once more, welcome to today's Code Africa Conference, Day 1 Virtual Edition. And with you today is John Jerop. I serve community through and with Memoy Africa. Memoy Africa is a leading ecosystem of developers and founders that are working together to make sure that we are building solutions that scale beyond Africa, but mostly building a world-class and competitive developers globally. Mema is as a mission of onboarding and nurturing developers through different services that we have. We have Dev Pantas. This is a weekly sessions in X Spaces, more of experiences and growth of developers. This is for the newbies devs, people who wants to learn about developers, guys who have had different types of myths and misconceptions. So we come together to make sure that we are really putting or tearing down the walls that are going to make us the great developers. And we do this on weekly, on Fridays in X Spaces. We also have Dev Hours. Dev Hours is a technical deep dive in different protocols. This is where we come and build together, we learn together, we code together, and this is happening in YouTube. Weekly here in YouTube on Saturdays. We also host different types of bootcamp. This is where you come and learn about the protocols, start building in it as well. We have also hackathons. I mean, what is there else apart from hackathons for developers to make sure that we are testing our experiences, we are testing the lessons that we have. We are testing the lessons that we have done in a bootcamp, right? We also have Memoir University chapters. In the past 9 months in Memoir Africa, we have managed to build up to 5,000 developers, and these 5,000 developers also include 40 plus universities that we have partnered across 10 countries in Africa. We also have Memoir meetups, Memoir developer meetups. This is where devs come and network, catch up with trending tech, something that is happening in the space, but also create an inclusivity, the community, right? The good that we have. MEMA also has MEMA conference. This is being one of the first Code Africa conference. This is a developer themed conference, whereby it brings together all developers to come and learn, create, network, but mostly be able to share about the trending, also the challenges. As I started earlier, is MEMA is really working towards onboarding and mentoring developers ecosystem in Africa. And we go beyond that only Web3, but also looking at the Web2s and other emerging technologies. How can we all come together to create a valuable and scalable solutions? And yeah, we are honored. We are here today in our first edition. This is our first edition. We have a physical edition next year. Is the Africa edition in May, and West Africa edition in November. And I want to thank each and every person who has joined us today for your time, for your presence, to come and share, to come and discuss about the key things that is happening. How can we shape, how can we create a new wave in Web3 in Africa, right? That not only learn, right, but also create, that also produce, but not only produce, but produce a world class product skills logo, and we are honored to invite experienced developers and owners who have been doing this, who have been building over and over, to be part of us, right? To come and share with us their experiences, what they have been doing, and how can we all come together to make sure that we are building together. Yeah? Um, And our first speaker today, we have Felix Macharia. Felix Macharia is a very known techie in the space of Web3, mostly Kenya. He runs Kotani Pay organization. And Macharia has been really dealing a lot, speaking in different types of conferences, building developers, doing also different types of bootcamp. I think we have been before in one bootcamp with Felix, the Stellar bootcamp, right? And we are all learning on how to upscale the products. And I'm honored to have him today as our keynote speaker to share on his experiences and the details. I don't know if Felix is already here with us. Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Felix, for joining us. And before I on over to you, I really want to appreciate the team that have been behind Code Africa conference. Start from Mona Lisa Akpata, the convener of Code Africa conference, and as well as Chief Marketing Officer of Memoir and a co-founder of Memoir Africa. We have Jara Sule, our technical lead. We have Elisha David, our DevRel, Nicodemus Kito, social media marketing, at Jesu, our email marketing, Fred, our content creator, for the amazing work that you have done. We also appreciate all communities that are partnered with us to make sure that we are bringing developers together, right, to this event to share in different countries. I also appreciate all the TDG communities that have also partnered with us in this remarkable event as well. Also appreciative of our workshop partners. We have over 10 workshop partners from our renowned organization. And at this moment, I'm going to welcome our esteemed speaker to take us through his own experience. Welcome, Felix. Can hear you, Felix. You have echo on your background, but you can hear you.
Can still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Felix.
Okay. Yeah. So of course the assumption here is that Botani Pay has made it and is successful, and nothing can be farther from the truth, right? So yes, we have grown from an idea gone through crisis after crisis. Most ones in the Binance crisis. Um, but there's hope. More and more Africans today pay digitally. So young, educated Africans are actually making up a bulk of today's upcoming workforce. And this provides a great and fertile consumer market and a place to build international tech teams. Digital asset regulation globally is also being proposed, and DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations like MakerDAO, are tokenizing real world assets like treasury bills and so on. We're also looking at stablecoin volumes being at an all time high globally. Ethereum, and kudos to the Ethereum community. But Ethereum and its community is continuing to innovate around things like ZK proof. Governments like the Italian government, the Filipino government are tokenizing government debt, and big banks are making ETFs of Bitcoin and Ethereum. So if you look at that kind of situation within Web3, yes, there is the down market, but if you look at that kind of situation, the kind of building and acceptance that Web3 is getting globally, then you realize that there's plenty of opportunity for millennials and for Gen Zs in Web3 today to build something that is of value for the whole of Africa. Now, if you look at the continent specifically, we don't have an Ethereum client from the continent. We don't have a wallet that works continent wide. We don't have our own stable coin. We don't have our own blockchain protocol like the way Polygon had some Indian co-founders. So if you look at all those situations, there's plenty of work to do, and there's a lot of opportunity there. So I am briefly going to share my biggest wisdom from, my biggest nuggets of wisdom from the last 6 years that I've been a founder, and specifically the last 3 that I have been Botani Pay CEO, right? And this is supposed to help all the builders who are here, people who are coding, people who have ideas, people who are looking to start teams. So the first and most important thing that I've learned over time, looking back and joining the dots, is that you need to pick your founding team very carefully. You need to pick your founding team correctly. And most startup, and in fact even beyond startup, even most entrepreneurial journeys are usually minimum 7-year journeys. So you're in this thing for 7 years, working every day. So you want to be with people who are strong. You want to be with people who are committed. But very importantly, you also want people of high integrity, people who will stick to the mission, right? Through thick and thin. So whether situations change, they are sticking to the mission because they believe in it. So if you find, something that works like a duck and quacks like a duck, it probably is a duck. So you want to avoid people who are toxic. You want to avoid people who are prone to anger. You want to avoid moody, untrustworthy, unreliable founders. Because that is to be only with that for the next 7 who you choose as a founder. You've seen a lot of startups closing simply because of co-founder conflict, right? It's even before we get to funding, it's that with co-founder conflict in Africa being the biggest killer of startups, right? And you've even seen OpenAI, which is a darling of the industry. It couldn't run away from that same trap of co-founder conflict. So you'd rather take your time, choose a founder that's going to spend 3 to 4 years with you, who shares in your vision. But what applies to founders also applies to teams, right? Because again, if you're a believer like me in lean startup mentality or lean startup, you will have a small team that you will require or want to do a large number of things, whether you are a DAO or you are an LLC. So be very careful who you onboard onto the team. They must not, it's not just intelligence alone that matters. They also need to have team spirit. It also applies to investors. So you also need to be aligned with your investors, both in terms of mission and vision. Because investors, you could have a great team, you could have a great founder, but you have terrible investors who sort of like draw you back. So you want to think about the team that is building whatever it is that you're building or whatever problem you're trying to solve. Which brings me to my second point, which is structure. So by structure, I don't mean having a board of directors, whereas that is necessary. Somewhere down the line, you will need a board of directors. That's necessary. But I mean the legal entity. I mean, the legal entity and where you register it. So when you register an LLC in Kenya, it's like you've gotten a title deed or a marriage certificate. You're stuck in that. You're stuck in that thing to the end, right? And you're stuck with those. It's very hard to remove someone, even if they are detrimental to your mission, even if they are stolen money. If you're in Kenya and you have an LLC and they're an owner inside the company, they're an owner. So what do you want to do? You want to register in places where there is flexibility when it comes to legal structure. Of course, a lot of companies globally, not just African ones, globally, register in Delaware because of the tax benefits it offers. Other companies, especially crypto ones, like to register in places like Mauritius and Dubai, because those places offer legal structures that allow you to have very important things, I want to say. One is something called a vesting schedule. Vesting schedule says that you only earn your shares for the time you're in the company. So if the company 3 to 6 months, then you leave your vesting schedule on the table. Two is they tend to have board functions and they tend to have voting rights. So you will have the owners of the company on the board, as you have seen also with the OpenAI aspect. So if you register in Kenya, it protects you in Kenya, it gets you the legal accounts in Kenya, but it shouldn't be operating or your holding company. Your holding company should be in a place that allows you flexibility legally. Because remember that if you forget this part, that your legal entity is tied to everything else. It's tied to your bank accounts. It's tied to if you're getting technology, all those things will be tied to that land. So if somebody is detrimental to you can't do it. In Kenya, you can't do it, but in Delaware, it's possible to do that. Now, because we're in Web3, I must talk about DAOs. So registering in a great DAO jurisdiction is also advisable. So places like Dubai, Wyoming, etc. might have they have policies or laws that might help you protect. They have protections and have something called recourse. Like if something goes wrong, you can actually go to you can get some recourse. If you're building a DAO, you need to think deeply about security. You must have a multi-sig account because there are a lot of hacks. There are a lot of rug pulls that happen in Web3 that end the lives of many DAOs. I'm sure you guys have seen many DAOs finished because they didn't think about security and they didn't think about multi-sig. But you have also seen very successful DAOs like MakerDAO, right? So those are some of the basics that I don't think people will talk about, but important. Then we come now onto the day to day. So the day to day is one of the things that build startups is consistency. You have to be in it. If it's a business, you have to be in it every day. I find like people take intensity to mean something. So you find people they launch whether they're down for 6 months, they have a lot of intensity, they're pushing the thing. But what really matters, what counts over time is is um, is consistency in execution. And I want, if you can watch some alt video from 6 years ago, where he says the idea is all part of the value that is there in a startup. The idea just gets you, I don't know, into a hackathon. Beyond the hackathon, if you're going to build a successful enterprise in Africa and indeed in the world, you need to be very good at execution. You need to be consistent in your execution. And then finally, is because I can see I'm coming to the end of my time. Leave time for questions. Finally, is the issue of founder mental health, or what do you say, self-care. Self-care self-care is also important, right? So you want to, whereas you're sacrificing a lot for this startup and to get this startup running, it's important to take care of yourself mentally. Do whatever works for you, whether that's sports, exercise, gym, being with friends, being with family, meditating, traveling a bit, whatever works for you that helps you unwind, helps you think differently, helps you think broadly. Then you want to do that, because like I said, this is a 7-year journey and you're there every day, and you suffer from burnout, right? Sometimes. And then finally, of course, there's funding. A lot of people like to talk about funding. Personally, I think Web3 has a lot of funding. And the way I look at it is, I look at Web3 funding in 3 stages. If you're in Web3, you can start out by just participating in hackathons, or if you're a developer, just doing bounties. So there are plenty of hackathons and bounties out there on places like Gitcoin, etc. It's also going to test the resilience of your team. It's going to test the skills that your team has. You're going to know the kind of people you are with and kind of building with, right? So I encourage a lot of startups to go for hackathons. They give you good feedback, like what has been organized right here by Code Africa. The second thing after hackathons, of course, hackathons only give you prize money. Maybe you can stay, you can push idea for 3 months or so. The next thing is grants. So after a hackathon, if you have had a successful hackathon and you want to push this product forward, you need some action. So make sure you have track what it is you're doing. Impact must be seen and it must be clear. The impact must be seen and it must be clear. So that will help you get grants, and grants just help you to expand those ideas or whatever it is you're doing into a big pilot. Big pilot. We're talking about 1,000 to 5,000 people in terms of impact. And then after the grants, and there are many grants, including Gitcoin grants, Polygon grants, and others. After the grants comes the if you want to know how to build a business, you want to raise from early stage investors. Again, you don't want to go and speak to an investor who invests in health tech, or you go to speak to an investor who invests in late stage Series A. You're wasting your time. Look for investors who are investing in Web3. They understand Web3 as a concept. They are positive about the general industry, and that will make it very easy for you to raise your first round of checks, especially if you have a team and if you have impact, right? So those are the 5 things I wanted to cover in this keynote. I hope it's been helpful, Jerome.
from my own understanding, is that we have over 700 developers. What is that thing that you think has made us not have our own, build our own protocols? Is it that we are slow to get to Web 3 or
Yes, so that is a function of how young our Web3 space is in Africa. It's still very young. The first set of companies, like Otanibe, started building maybe around 2018. Um, Developers on the continent in 2018, I can tell you for a fact, were non-existent. People were just developers by name, but not by practice. And so it's taken 3 to 4 years. It's taken 3 to 4 years. Sorry about I couldn't. So I'm saying it has taken about 3 years, let's say getting to 2021, 2022, when we started having very good free developers on the continent. So with more talent, the ability to build global protocols. So again, I'm seeing developers now start going for events like the Istanbul Turkey, the Ethereum Global event. So last year, the Ethereum Global team came to Kenya, and the Polygon team. So there's that aspect of developer scarcity, skill scarcity, and then you add on top of that these developers also need to be exposed. They need to go out into other places in Warsaw, in Turkey. In fact, that was one of our requests to the Ethereum Global team, is that they host an event here in Africa, because it brings the international talent here. So we cannot all fly out. They can all come here and we can exchange with international teams. That's where now you get ideas or even skills on how to build some of these very complex Web3 products.
Thank you so much, Felix. I think that actually summarizes it all when it comes to how we're going to upskill our own developers, right? And Mema Africa, inclusive of other organizations, you're talking about Kiboko DAO, you're talking about Super Team DAO. I love that you mentioned about DAO and how to go about DAO. I know when we are starting DAOs, it looked like, it's something that just happened. But as you progress, you get to understand that DAOs is DAOs partner, a lot of communication inside, has a lot of things to check the security, even as one team, how you're working from the contribution it makes, right? So, and these are the key things that you really need to hear in this type of events. The reality of the things, all things like the background, right? We are not in the hyping stage anymore that, Web3 is great, Web3 is great. Yes, we know Web3 is great, but now we also need to check at all things that really encompass Web3 to reach its potential, right? And yesterday we were on the conference and meeting speakers from Web Africa, Web3 Brief, and they were talking about the same thing. That right now in Africa, what we need to do is to be serious. There's nothing that is easy. If you have chosen your route, that is, if it's DAOs, you have to delve deeper, check at all things that is necessary. And also, it's not something that is overnight, right? It's something that it needs consistency. As you mentioned, you're putting in consistency over and over, doing, going to hackathons, going to events, seeing what are people doing, right? So, and I really want to thank you for your bigger contribution, and I will summarize what you have mentioned so that the newbies who have joined knows exactly things that you mentioned, because also from outside of building a startup, I've noticed these are really that if we focus on these key things in a really serious manner, right? In a really that we need to build something that's scale, we are really going to go far. And I'll start from choosing your founder, right? The type of founders that you're working together, they have to be committed, integrity, and have to be stick with the mission, right? We also have investors and time Alliance vision. I was looking at my CEO of Binance, the ex-CEO of Binance, Tizi, and he was talking about sometimes investors doesn't align, your vision doesn't align with investors, and at that moment you know that your product is not yours, right? And I believe if you are the vision bearer at this, you must be involved because you know what you want to bring that right in future, and this is thing that is crucial. I know funding is quite challenging in Africa, that we sometimes try to get money because that's what we want to scale, we want to grow, right? And but looking at the future, right, we need to look not only now, but 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now. What are we looking at? What is this product coming on? Literally, what are you building at? I think if we wear that visionary minds of what we are looking at future, it will really evade us from the few things for such right, like installation. Another thing that we've mentioned is to register in countries that have that at the lowest is here, like Delaware and Mauritius. You also have for the DAOs, make sure that you your security, you consider security so much. Check out the multi-sig, right? We also have the founders mental health. I think this is something that is really key to developers as well. Get your coding over. You're trying to put here, running here up and down, right? So I mean, as a founder, it's being a founder is a work by itself. Even like you have to accomplish, you have a lot of tasks in your neck, and we need to focus really on the mental health because the statistics shows how rate of mental health increase, right? And we'll add on this that mental health also comes with the inner management. How do you manage yourself inner, right? How do you manage how you think, the emotions, how do you react to that things? That is really key for the founders. We don't have a smooth road in founders. There's always up and down. That means you need to be aligned with yourself. You need to consider the aspects, you know, the outside world. You cannot control some things. So the key things that you need to know is to control your inner management, that so that you don't face this burnout that comes up and most of the time. Another thing is the traction. I mean, even I'm not an investor yet, but I won't invest in something that doesn't have a traction. This means traction shows how much you're dedicated to your own project. The project shows how much are you dedicated to build your products. It shows on how you're putting yourself outside there with or without any support. So long as you have your vision, you have to put yourself outside there. And lastly is we have to look at the investors who are dedicated to Web3, who understand Web3 landscape, how things are going. Right now we are in the bear market, you know, and a lot of guys are shutting down. So it's really great to have investors that align with our missions. Yeah, thank you so much, Felix, for your great keynote speaking. We're looking forward to see on how much we can do together in the Africa continent with the help of developers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerome. Have a nice one.
Have a nice one too, Felix. Yes. Once more, listeners, we are really grateful for the first sessions that we have finalized. Make sure that you are tweeting this on your Twitter. Use hashtag Code Africa Conference, hashtag Memoir Africa. Let's inspire as much as possible. Let's bring developers, founders. Let's come and learn, share. Follow also Memoir Africa for the big updates. And we'll add on what Felix said is we still need to do more when it comes to upskilling our developers because Web3 is still young. And Memoir Africa is working hand in hand with each and every developers to make sure we have this, right? We have hosted over 4 bootcamps, over 4 hackathons, over 4 dev hours, over 4 dev panels. We have also partnered with 40 universities across Africa to make sure that the undergraduates are also getting laptops and the 2 necessary tools that they need to make sure that they are building and coding. We also have the Code Africa Conference, one of its kind, to make sure we are bringing together, we are bringing the minds together to one place. All developers, we are addressing the challenges, celebrating the successes, looking at what are the key things that we need. Right? So make sure you are inviting, share on your own WhatsApp status, share on LinkedIn, tag Memoir Africa on your own platform, use hashtag Code Africa Conference. Make sure that you have as many people as possible. This is for you. This is for everyone. This is also for the guys who are looking to have to build on Web3, to join Web3, to be a dev, right? We are here for you. And I'm going to welcome our next speaker. I can't see him on our speaker's side. Gerald, could you please bring up our next speaker, David Dumalal? David Dumalal has been really doing a lot as a developer. He has been working from one country to another. I mean, we branded him, in fact, a Kenyan citizen because he doesn't miss any developer event that is going on in Kenya, right? Not only in Kenya, but he has worked from one country to another to make sure that we are installing the key, right things, the key tools for us to scale as a developer. And we are honored to have David Dumalal, the developer engineer architect here today. Yeah, welcome, David. David, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you, Jerome. How are you?
I'm doing great, David, and it's an honor to have you today here.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me, David? I can hear you from my side.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me, David? Let me check with our.
Wow, there is a very huge lag between my voice and yours. All right, so let me proceed now that.
Can you hear me, David? Let me check with our the technical.
Yes, I hear you, though there is a very huge lag in terms of the frequency of our voices. I respond and then I take a minute or so without hearing from you.
Great, please let's go on. I'll be working with our technical guy to make sure that we are rectifying on the. Great, please let's go on. I'll be working with our technical guy to make sure that we are rectifying on the.
All right, thank you so much for the invitation to be here. My topic of the day is about digital identities and self-sovereign identities in the emerging world. I've heard from the first speaker talking about so many things about Web3 and how complex it is in nature. And I think he lays a very firm ground for the kind of situation to expect once we start entangling ourselves with what Web3 entails. So becoming very accustomed to the Telegram and Discord, most probably are the go-to social media handles for people in Web3. So of late, you've seen a proliferation of so many artificial intelligence agents. There is an artificial intelligence agent for writing essays, for generating pictures randomly, for composing music, and so much more. So the idea of humanness or being a real human is becoming, is fading over time. Our authenticity as human beings, because that's ultimately what distinguishes us from machines, robots, and any other entities online. So over time, ideas have been generated on us in as much as how we can quickly identify and authenticate what is human from what it isn't. You probably visit these websites where you see they tell you you are trying to sign in for a particular service or use a particular application, and then they give you a captcha. They say complete captcha to prove that you are human. I hope you guys hear me. You hear me? Okay. So once you complete that captcha, they usually give you some signs that can indicate that this has been recognized by a human eye, and that gives you the basic identity, the basic understanding of what sense of identification can be. So let us get to the decentralization bit in this identity. So I suppose that some of you have used Circle's USDC, a stablecoin that is pegged to the US dollar, minted by the Center Consortium under Circle as a company. So Circle as a company has come up with a verification platform called Verite. If you check out the site Verite online, you will find about how they are trying to put up these identification protocols in a decentralized manner. I think it is over 6-7 chains now, where you can do anything online with just a single unique identifier, but in a ZK manner. By ZK, I mean limiting access to information, but provably identifying something, or provably confirming that something is what it claims it is. I read another wonderful story. I think it was Buenos Aires in Argentina rolled out a ZK Sync error-based Quark ID system for marriage certificates, for birth certificates, and academic credentials. So from that kind of pilot they are running in Argentina down there, you don't have to, because if I'm David Lumala today, holding a particular document like a degree, my academic credential in terms of a transcript, and probably a national identity, that won't change no matter which platform I go to, no matter which country I go to, or in fact it is my passport in any case. So I come from Uganda, but I need to have about for every place, if I want to go and identify myself, if I don't carry a national ID, there must be some unit entered to prove that I'm actually not probably a criminal or a fugitive. So why don't we look at it in a situation whereby we can have this I've seen these products being worked on in hackathons by different students, by different teams globally, and pilots in different countries. I think there is one in Egypt as well with the Tala Prism for all students in the country, Egypt and Ethiopia. So many more, many more. I would love to give you some other useful resources to check out, such that you can find out more information about it. So I've already mentioned Verite online. Then you check out Work ID on ZK Sync Era. ZK Sync Era is a ZK is a zero knowledge proof kind of roll up for Ethereum together. Yes, Deropa, are we together?
Yeah, together.
Hello.
Sorry, I'm having glitches on my side, a bit of glitches, but we get to hear, though having lacking, I get to hear all the details on how
Israel and
getting the decentralization,
Deropa, are we together?
brief security. I think the key thing for check is for security purposes.
We just threw in a
How can we
and we follow. Okay, that's it in a nutshell. The idea of zero knowledge and best for between two parties that want to confirm or prove something. All right,
Alex,
I've had
you please
with
your
the blockchain network guarantee more security because it is implying that is much easier, and these hashing algorithms operate in a single forward direction. It is not like properly appreciate that. But for the sake of the audience and everyone who may not be taking for start, the hash
decentralization and how also Africa is adapting to decentralization, right? Next, in our next speaker, we have our amazing speaker. Yesterday, he managed to share with us the key how to go about in Africa as developers, right? When it comes to upskilling developers. And before I invite Ayo for the next topic, I'd like to thank our listeners. Make sure that you are putting it on Twitter outside there. Tag Memoir, hashtag Memoir Africa, hashtag Code Africa Conference. Invite us more developers and techies as well. This event is for every person who is trying to navigate on Web3 as a developer, as a techie, who want to go deeper, right? When it comes to building products, putting the products out there. And Memoir Africa is honored to have you. Memoir is an onboarding and nurturing, in onboarding and nurturing vision of developers, right? Through different types of services. And today is one of it. That is called Africa Conference. And we are having amazing and experienced speakers aligned for us to share the key things that have been building, that have been going through in Africa for us to be the next wave frontier. And the next session we are going to have our Saki Ayodezi. Saki Ayodezi is a founder of Web3 Bridge. He likes calling himself a mechanical Web3 Bridge and a community manager of Web3 Bridge. And Ayo has been doing a lot when it comes to building developers since 2019 in Lagos, and now it's cutting across not only Lagos but different types of countries in Africa. He is onboarding developers, or rather supporting developers to go to Lagos for a January cohort, and he has done several cohorts in the past. And today we are honored to hear about him telling us about the powering the future of Web3 and bridging skills gap and nurturing globally competitive developer talents. Welcome, Ayo.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. And I believe that it's going to be an amazing time. It's going to be as short as possible. Let me share my screen. Let me share my screen. Okay. Thank you very much. So, we're talking the next I don't know, there seems to be feedback from here.
Are you?
All right,
I
great.
don't know if
So,
you are able to put up the. Are you able to put up the
developed code and non-code talent, tech talent in Africa is increasing. Judging by this, like in the last 1 year, we've seen like we have almost 1 million people contributing to open source in Nigeria. Like very, very good number. In Ghana, like 41%, in Kenya, 41%, in Morocco, like now let's look at combine the whole of Africa together. We see that the number is increasing number of tech talents in Africa. And we have people who have the quest and desire to be relevant. Like one of the challenges we have in Africa is that everyone wants to, they have this quest to say, okay, I want to like first feed myself, then next I want to be relevant. Like everyone wants to be like, everyone wants to be, what do we call them now? Everyone wants to be an influencer, they want to be a role model to somebody. And as they do this, they want to contribute. Also, we have increasing young population. There is statistics that says that in like 2050, the population in Africa is going to increase, and Nigeria being one of those countries. And amidst all of this, our young population is going to keep increasing, which is a blessing that is in our reality. As much as that's the blessing, it will also be a curse if we don't manage it very well, because population is both a blessing and a curse. And also, we have increased demand to earn foreign currencies. I don't know if you know, but within the last 1 year, every country in Africa, almost every country in Africa has an FX problem. Nigeria has an FX problem of Naira moving from, say, 400, 700 to 1,100. Kenya has the same. I think as at this time last year, Kenyan shilling was 115 to $1. And as at this morning, it's trading between 153 to 160 US dollar. Ghanaians are having the same problem. So almost every African country are looking for FX because there's a demand for FX. People are looking for FX to increase their earning rate. People are looking for FX as their currency. People are looking for FX so that they can. People are looking to save in FX to edge against that local currency inflation. And Africa is becoming more visible for Web3. In the last 1 year, we've had a number of chains, a number of protocols visit Africa, especially some major countries in Africa, to learn about it, to learn about our culture, our work culture, our life. Because you cover that we are instrumental to their growth. I think last year was when MetaMask released that the highest number of wallet downloads from MetaMask was from Nigeria. Now, the same for almost all protocols. The highest number of people that airdrop are from Africa, I think Asia and America. Now, they're like this. So everyone like want to like see how well they become, or they have to like get us in, so we're becoming more visible. These are our realities as of this morning. Now Africa and Web3. Africa has the talents and the population potential to drive and sustain Web3. If we want to factor with ourselves, Africa is one continent where Web3 is having most impact. We are the ones that have problem with FX. We don't have problem with right? So there's a feedback. We don't have like a remittance problem. We don't have all of these problems. Automatically, the more of these problems we have makes Web3 more interesting around cryptocurrency use, around DeFi, around all of these things. So the population we have is a blessing for Web3, and it can actually sustain Web3. Also, Web3 has the potential for more direct and visible impact. I think I mentioned this. There are cases of most of the solutions we have that are coming from the West to Africa are at this point mostly abstract, because they did not fit into our local way of doing things until a number of DAOs started domesticating DAO operations to look like local cooperatives. DAO had struggled. A number of Africans, apart from those that are digents, are finding it hard to use DeFi because it doesn't fit into our regular way of loan, collateral, and all of those stuffs. A number of people are struggling with even funding issues. So there is an abstract and a real solution problem. But then if we keep having real solution in Africa have the facility, the resources to actually contribute more to Web3. Now, what are our paths to growing global talents? We let's look at. I like looking at Web 2 because there's no way we want to talk about Web 3 without Web 2. Early 2000 or late 1990s, we could see Google and Microsoft invested in Africa. Like a lot of hackathon, a lot of education. Like I don't know for other countries, but I know that a number of countries have Google Developer Campus groups. These groups are not just groom developer on the campuses. They have group developer who, after campus, are now like master of industry and in Google and Microsoft. Because the first thing they did, that was clean and clear education. We can't exactly is Web3. We need to define it. We need to define it to the point where people understand what Web3 is. Then they can now chart their course. Not everyone is going to become developers. I used to say this. Not everyone should be developers. But then developers are just one tiny part of the tech that we need. We need strong and vast product managers, product designers, marketers, and all those things that are technical community managers are needed. I have like things I'm looking for. We need to to be clear around what is cryptocurrency, what is blockchain, how does this work with this one, how does this one work, how does what's all the protocols, what's layer 1, what's layer 2, what's layer 3, whatever. We need all of this education to be clear enough. We need content that defines them well enough for everyone that is coming to not get confused. Like everyone just like, okay, if developers are any more money, I want to become developers. No. We need to educate people enough, they need to understand well enough what exactly is this Web3, what exactly is this blockchain we are talking about. Then it's not like, okay, if you want to now contribute, this is where to contribute. Now, this is the reward for contributing to this. We need boot camps and communities. Like I like the opening call we had yesterday evening, and I love that we had different community heads talk about their communities. We cannot rule out community efforts. It's not possible. We cannot rule out the early days, like someone on the call yesterday was talking about Andela. There's no way we won't talk about the growth of Web 2 in Nigeria, in some part of Africa, that we won't talk about Andela. We won't talk about Hot School. We won't talk about what's the name of this other program? ELX. These communities are communities that have grown over 1,000 of people directly and indirectly and are responsible for the growth you see. Like for Nigeria, for example, CC Hub, Andela, all of these communities are like, if you trace almost all the active developers we have in the ecosystem in Web 2 in Nigeria, you can trace them directly or indirectly to either Andela or CC Hub. We trace them to GD campus team, developer groups on campus, and we need these communities to be well defined in the blockchain space. Like we cannot say we just want to have one community rule them all. No, it doesn't work like that. We need more communities from. I appreciate what the campus clubs are doing in Nigeria, from the OAU campus club to the UNN to Footmina to BUK, and all of these guys. They are actually defining well for the campus. Because like all of them are like a trading set, the design these people. We need more of those communities. We need to empower them. Now we need to also have boot camps, physical, in real life, online, hybrid boot camps, where there are strict curriculums where people get to learn, people get to build. Like, okay, so you are going to go from A to B to C, defined, because these boot camps already have a path for learning. We need this clearly defined in our ecosystem. Also, we need to have increased number of improved orbs. I was having a conversation with Eric Annan of Aya, and I'm talking about orbs. We need more orbs that cater for Web3. We need more orbs where Web3 developers can just like go into, sit down, build, meet other Web3 developers there, get to learn, network, and grow together. We need all these hubs, not just in one region, we need all across so that we can have impact. So a deaf can leave Nigeria, for example, come to Kenya, relate to these people. So as much as the more we move around, the more cross-cultural stuff we discuss, the more Web3 stuff we discuss, the more practical solutions we talk about. We're not talk about abstract thinking, because we need to. One of the reasons why we are finding it hard function in blockchain because the users are not developers. The users do not understand Web3, cannot touch what we are building. They cannot feel what we are building. All of us can feel Twitter, X, for example. All of us can feel Google. All of us can feel Google Map. We can feel both. We can feel, but we cannot actually feel what we are building. So that we need all of these ops like help. We need success storytelling mentorship. Like there's no way. One of the reasons why Web2 in Nigeria keep growing is because we can see the likes of Aksutan. We can see the likes of Idris. We can see all of these people on Twitter Spaces, on social media, talking about their successes, how they started from X to A to Z. I know that because of a fact of those people, most of our members are not talking out about, okay, how much they are earning, what they are building, where they are working, and all of those stuff. But then we need all of this storytelling. We need people to be able to talk about, okay, I was once doing X, now I do Y. That's one of the things we do at Celebrate. We get the people in the new court to meet the alumni to learn about their stories. And they're like, okay, this person is doing audits. Okay, I think I want to do audits. This person is doing gates. I want to do after the I want to go meet this person to get because this person is doing gates and this person is doing well. We need more success storytelling. We need more podcasts to spotlight builders in Africa that are doing well in Web3 so that other builders can like use them as pinpoint to say, okay, whatever I'm going through at this point, I can scale because this person is killing this. We need mentorship. We need Web3 development. Open Web actually open for the community space, but then we still more people to make more people. In doing this, a lot of people can move faster than alone. Like there's somebody from our core 7 who learned Get. I was building Inspire blockchain, and I was happy to see that someone in court 8 actually after the court went his house, sat down for a while, learned from him, and is building Inspire blockchain. Now, most of them might not learn their own private blockchains. But what they have done is that he was able to learn from this. From his own learning experience, has been writing about it. Someone else was like, oh, I'm going to meet this person. This person is doing what I want to do. We need to do this. And also, we need to increase the number of our improved hackathons. Now, when I mean improved hackathons, there's no one that can take it away that It Global is doing very amazing hackathons. We need to also step up. I'm happy to see the hackathon we had in the last Web3 Lagos conference by the IR team, and like that was like one of the best hackathon I've seen around. Like from the organization to the planning and execution of that hackathon to even the onboarding of those developers into a system where they can learn and scale their product. That's like we need more of those. We need. I understand that because of sponsorship and all. Some of the hackathons we have are like, okay, you do this, you get. We need to improve. We need to like scale up from one day hackathon, 3 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We need to get to a point where we have physical hackathons. Like It Global physical hackathons are like the best one people learn and build because as you are building, you are seeing other people building, you are learning. Like we need more of actually devote funds to research. We are going nowhere if we don't have research funds. We are going to keep building bullshits. I'm sorry to use that word because there's no product you want to build that require in depth to like, okay, what has been done about this? What are the environmental conditions to this? What do we do this? How do we do X, Y, Z? Like we need to like improve on our research in the ecosystem. Like a number of us just like, oh yeah, I now learned blockchain development. I want to build. No, we need actually from two people because they do product research, product testing, consumer like testing. We need all of this. Just don't want to like wake up and yes, I'm doing my NFT marketplace and now I've launched it. No. A lot of fire brigade approach to Web3 is good. But honest truth is that we need to do more in-depth stuff because Chinese bamboo takes, I think, about 3, 5, or 7 years to grow down. Then when it's coming up, it's looking. But then you cannot compare the Chinese bamboo to almost all the bamboos we have because the strength the bamboo has is on the level of what the base it has. Just like you are building a bridge, for example, you're building a 2-story building. You cannot compare the foundation, the depth of the foundation of a 2-story building. You probably don't even need to do anything. Dig fit in, put your block, set your 2 blocks. But you can't do that. If you do that, we do that for a story building, you are going to crash that house because you don't have a firm base. We need to have a research base. Now, all of this ties down to funding. We need more funding in Web3. There's no two way to it. If African talents are going to scale, we understand that a number of these protocols do not have the patience. We also need to look at how do we raise funds. It's not easy to actually raise funds. Web3 Bridge has been running that times we run with fund, without fund and all. It's not easy that this means that I want to actually break down and like, no, we have to stop this. But the honest truth is that we need funding in. And when I mean funding, sometimes taking VC funding at early stage, why not? Because there's a lot of groundwork we need to do. Like a lot of we do that. Not even be seen. Like what we need to do. Like some of the work are going to be seen. It's just like planting flower, planting beans, and you see the offshoot of beans. The beans you planted is in the soil, and the small thing will come. It will take time, but then everyone's like the first to bloom on time. That's what the funding problem. But we need funding to actually do this. Then we need events. We need events for network. We need co-marketing event, co-dev event. Like we need to events like where people can network more, talk more. We bring top guys from global top guys, talk to our own talent. Because the more they see these people doing this stuff, the tougher they become, the more they want like, okay, like personally, my experience in the space 2019, when I started with Web3 Bridge, I was like, okay, I would like to meet XYZ. And 2020, after meeting Vitalik, I was like, yeah, I've met this guy. This guy is human like me. Like the motivation and the level of confidence I took from meeting him alone was enough from an event. So we need more events. I understand that some get used, but we still need more events, like quarterly events, like set the pace. Okay, we get to sit down. Okay, like okay, are we going? Are we doing it right? Like real event, not event where we come and like just want to chill one talking and bros. No. We need quality events in the ecosystem. Thank you very much for listening. I would like to take questions. Yeah, questions. My name is PG. I wish I'm the founder of Web3 Bridge, and you can connect to me on this platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ayo. You have actually touched so many crucial things. Starting from how do we need like upskilling ourselves, the right skills that we need. And I have a question when it comes to hackathons, right? You've mentioned that Global are doing a world-class hackathons, right? And I did a hackathon, which is I-Class. Could you please tell us what are those details that you see in that hackathon and how you should implement as the dev communities that are also building the hackathons, right? And you also mentioned about the Web3 communities that are growing. We need Web3 communities. I think this is what I also talk about, really big in communities, is there is no Web3 if there's no communities. That's like no Web3 if there's community. Communities are the product of Web3. If you haven't built their community in a well-rounded, you actually don't have. I've seen these students hungry for knowledge, but you have to start to capture the mind to show exactly that you are putting out there. I'd like to know what are those key things that you would like to tell us as the African continent to look at for us to be at that world class to compete globally?
Thank you very much. I think I may need like a recap of your first question around East Global and Ayaton. I didn't get that, but let me let me just talk about the first. Okay, maybe a recap. I would like your first question around Ayaton and East Global. Can you come again over with that?
Yes, I was asking. You mentioned that East Global and East Global are organizing a world-class hackathons. That's the first thing, right? You also commented that Ayaton did a really world-class hackathon, that from the organizing, from the execution itself. My question is, this goes for all other developer communities, because I know you do have a lot of developer communities inside here. How do you advise us when it comes to the organizing hackathon? What are the key things that we need to look at so that we know this is a right way of executing the hackathons, but it's not only the right way, but it keeps the value out of it? Yeah.
Thank you. If you look at any East Global hackathons, right? People from registering for East Global hackathon, it comes from a point of people register for East Global like from a serious mindset. So the first thing first, like from the platform for registration, one thing on hackathon is like from platform for registration to communication to like the ideas people have. Like there were people who were there to like help you shape your idea when you're in ideation stage. When your idea is out, there are people like always there for support. Like they're like workshops and regular workshops. Like that's just how East Global is done. East Global has like sponsors time for support, for workshops, and we need more of this. Not like we want people to act and they're acting and nobody's providing support for them on Discord. No one providing support of them on Telegram. There's no workshops like we are building X and Y. A lot of people that are applying for hackathon in Africa, like they are not like we are not like always up there yet. But then, so we need to provide a lot of support and resources for these people. Like I think, good. I think Eric is just like after me, so he might have more to say about Ayaton than myself. I'm only saying this is what I've seen from registration. So I think this is a good setup for him. This is a good setup for him, and we already set him up for success already. Yeah, thanks for that. So then on the community side. The good part is that we need to collaborate across all communities and compete. It is foolish of us to say we want to like grow competition at this point, but also while one of the specific thing with us in Africa is that we are opinionated people. We are people that have different opinions, and these opinions are what is going to give birth to a lot of communities. It's good to say that why do you not join? Have one committee, and my thinking will be that let all community heads have a space where they interact so that add value. But you want to have your community good because like one thing cannot, for example, if I know that Memoy is doing something good in Kenya, but then we still have Kiboko DAO, we still have the likes of women in blockchain. It's not because only Memoy or Safari DAO cannot have everybody together. We cannot the community lead from the community. Like there's a way the community lead just indirectly set a tone for the community. So we need to encourage more people who are community builders, to have more communities, but then on a central side, all the communities have to have a way of connecting to that and have shared values. Our goal is one of the reasons why we need Francis in Africa is because in that community we get to interact with ourselves. For example, what do we want to see for the next 1 year? Next 1 year, we want to have more developers. Want to have this. We need to set all of this tone so that more people can come into the communities. We can't say we want to own one community. No, we should allow top community leaders to have their communities. Then all of us collaborate together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You have also mentioned something that Felix Macharia also made an emphasis, right, about looking the future. what are we trying to achieve in the next 7 years from now, 5 years, 10 years from now. Let's look at the future so that when we are building the products, it's not about the wave of the right now, things that are happening right now, but about the future, the solution. And also, I think this is something that you also emphasized yesterday on our Twitter space. Like, we need to look forward, we need to look at the future, we need to look at what we really want to achieve. And I also believe that all resources that we have in Africa, we have it to scale. We need to come together as our collaborators, work together, making sure that we are building the communities, having all the communities together, doing what you can do the best, right? I know we have different types of communities. I'll talk from Kiboko Dao. Kiboko Dao are really keen in how are they upskilling and upgrading developers by themselves, right? From the designers, from the back-end front-end developers, and doing it on Wednesday basis. We have KBLD. This is improving women in technology. We have the Web3 bridging. In Nigeria, we have Super Team. Down in Nigeria, we have AYA. All these are working on how can we put our developers to a front rank to be the competitive in the global market. And we are really grateful that you have shared with us the key steps, the key information that we need for us to upscale, to not only upscale but to create viable solution. But it all needs consistency, discipline, that it needs us to be onboarded for us to reach where we are going, right? See, he also mentioned about the type of founders, the type of people that we need to work, the vision, the mission. We does not need to work blindly because somebody else is doing it, right? Because somebody else is creating. But let's look at what are our day-to-day challenges. Now, let's bring Web3 on this, and how can we utilize Web3 to make sure that we are getting into it, right? We are building the right way. You mentioned also about the building the communities, which is really key thing in Memoir as well. That is in campuses. We have partnered with over 40 GDGs communities in 40 campuses. The key thing is, how do we all learn, right? How do we shape ourselves? I mean, my own story is I get to learn all these things outside here after trying to figure it out life. But if we have a key way, a key people that are really directing us, showing us the way, this will get more. And this comes from all these communities that you have in collaboration. Thank you so much, Ayo, for your time.
Thank you very much.
And for your amazing.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate all you do.
Thank you so much, Ayode. Before we get to them amazing, I mean, Eric and Annie already have your questions lined up for you, but that is amazing. I'll get back to the listeners of today. We are still grateful for your time that you're taking with us, that you're asking questions, that you're following up. Make sure that you go to your Twitter space, post about, we have Eric Anan from AYA. Tag Eric Anan, tag AYA in Twitter space. Invite us more developers to come and learn about the mission of the builders, right? Eric Anan is a very known speaker. He has been moving actually from one developer event to another. I mean, that is really impressive. And I was so impressed today that you're going to have him so that we can hear about how has he been interacting. This is something that also you mentioned, that getting into more events, networking, we have to learn more. We learn more. We'll have to get more, right? And Eric has been doing a lot in that area. He has been moving from one country to another. Also volunteering. I was seeing him volunteering in the last Istanbul, you know. So I'd like to know from your own mind, Eric, and from AYA, what is the mission of the builders in Africa? Yeah, the journey of the African builders, that is from 0 to 1 mission. Welcome, Eric. Yes, we can hear you.
The people were creating solutions. So within 2 months, they built more than 70 projects. And then nobody taught me about anything. I just observed. So when I observed, I said, wow, look, it's not enough to have the skill. The real thing in Web3 is to show proof of work. So immediately I called my team that, hey guys, we need to change a lot of things that we are doing. It's not enough to get people, the skill. What we need to do, focus on that, double down is the builder mindset. So we start talking about, hey, builder mindset, builder mindset, builder. So today, almost everybody in Africa is talking about builders, builders, builders. But before that, everybody was like, we need to train people, get people skills, big skills. So what we decided to do is that we wanted to test the power of the skill that you have. The only way you can actually test your power of your skill is to do something. So we went into collaboration because again, we believe in collaboration. No single person can do everything. Web3 Break has done an amazing job in Nigeria already. They've in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Eric. And for that, and for the great work that you are doing in AI to make sure that you are building you are building the African builders. And there's a lot of things that I love about you and about the work that you are doing in the space, the passion more so of making sure that we are actually putting the African outside there, the terms of community, the structures that you are putting outside there. I was going through the IG and I was looking what you guys are doing, and I'm like, this is really fantastic. From how you are striking your things and how you're doing your things. I would like to know what is the key mission and vision that you like to achieve as Eric Canaan when it comes to the builders of African nation.
I don't have a personal selfish mission. My mission is that I want to be able to support and be part of those who write the history of tomorrow today. My next 5 years mission is to enable builders across the continent and be able to create solutions that really matter. I come from a very strong background from development. My background is development, and I measure things that really matter. I measure things from the background. I don't measure things from the top. So I don't actually. If you come to me and tell me that, by the next 1 year, we have impacted 10 million people, and I'll ask the question: show me one person that your 10 million have really impacted. So I work with micro, bottom up, because if you impact one person, that one person can impact 10 people, and that 10 people will not become 100. If you come to me, 1 million. So I always want to start from one. So my mission is to be able to impact you, Momoy, with a growth mindset, to begin to think from the perspective of infinity game plan, not from a winner or a winner take all or a zero-sum game. I believe in an infinity game plan where your win is not your win, but your win is the win of the community. And when the community wins, we all win. Because look, we have opportunity to create on-chain identity. One of the biggest challenges we have is trust. And trust is the highest form of currency. Nobody give you their trust if they cannot believe that you can hold it in high esteem. And one of the things that we all must work as a community is ensuring that we can create an on-chain identity that is immutable, that is tested. That when I say this, people know that yes, Eric said this, and he means it. Momo said this, and she means it. So we do not need to take for granted trust, because this blockchain space is a small world. A lot of people have created a lot of damage for some of us, making it difficult to win global partners to see what we are doing. And therefore, my mission is to create an enable environment so it will become easier for those who are coming, make it easier for them to enter. I don't want to become a gatekeeper. I want to become a bridge so everybody can walk and create an environment that African young people can be able to create value and create solutions that enable people to thrive. That is the mission I have. And that mission, if eventually it will reward me financially, so be it. But the goal is not to make money. The goal is to create bridge for a lot of young Africans to be able to work on it and have success.
Thank you so much, Eric, for creating for us bridge so that we know where exactly we're going through, to know exactly what we are building. I know there's a lot of, from the guests who are reading history, from how things happen, right? From how things went on, how the power, and how we think. And I love that now we are retaining back the confidence we are bringing. We are showing that we are really capable of building, of executing, of coming up with a valuable products, but not only, but also building a world-leading developers, not competing only in the African aspect, right? Because we have the resources, and we have the resources in this case are the developers. We also have the whole communities, right, that are able to come together to bring all these aspects that leads to for us to scale. And I actually mentioned exactly the same thing yesterday on our Twitter spaces on how we need to be more rich, right? We need to build more skills. We need to put ourselves outside there. And before I finalize on this, I'll ask this question. I know this question is really sensitive for both developers and us. There is a number of developers that I've experienced this myself from hosting a lot of hackathons. We get that yes, a hackathon is a building bridge, it's a building place, it's a place whereby you are upskilling on skills. But you get somebody is coming in with a mentality of getting a bounty. I don't say this is bad. I mean, this is a motivating effect. But when somebody misses out the bounty, they go all about that, talking about how the outside nation, the Western nation are using us for building on their own protocols, right? And they're not giving us money. How do you handle such type of communication? And also, how do you put across that this is a building place? If you do not manage to be the top 3, that doesn't mean that you are not good enough, you don't deserve it, but it means that you have another chance to build over, to go up, to upskill your skills. How do you communicate this when it comes to your own hackathons? Yeah.
Thank you so much. So again, going back to the essence of my talk, the 0 to 1 mission, they need to work on the foundation, which is solving the bread and butter challenge. The truth of the matter is that Africa is a surviving continent. Everybody wake up to try to survive. So we don't wake up with an abundance mindset. We wake up try to survive. So that kind of give us orientation of scarcity. So this challenge is not a challenge of one dev or two dev. These young guys are waking up. They don't even have access to food. That problem is still a problem in the West. I mean, most young people in the US, in Canada, in China don't have the food problem. Most people don't have the electricity problem. They don't have the water problem, right? That problem has been solved almost completely. In Africa, that problem has not been solved, right? It is a very sensitive matter. Again, it is not the fault of me to be born in Ghana. I didn't ask my parents to be from Ghana. I didn't ask God, please, I want to be. You didn't call that. You didn't ask yourself to be born in Kenya. But unfortunately or fortunately, we are all born in where we are born, right? And we need to be proud of where we are. It's not my fault that my government is so inept, so wicked, that it's not thinking about the young and the continent and the citizens. It's not our fault. However, there's a caveat. However, we need to begin. We should be hungry. Whether bounty or not bounty, we'll still be hungry. Whether there's bounty or not bounty, we will still eat. So we need to approach every challenge as a journey, not as a destination. As a journey, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You are using this opportunity to learn every step of your way, give you opportunity to become better. So don't approach hackathons with the goal that I must win. If I don't win, they were biased. If I don't win, therefore they are using me. No, you see it as an opportunity to scale, upskill, learn. This time you come better prepared, better learn, and better challenge to do better. That is my advice. Because if you don't do that, with an abundance mindset, with the excitement, with joy, with empathy, with problem solving, with creativity, with adaptability, we always go with every challenges with a scarcity mindset, because already we are hungry. You must eat today. Yes, if you don't eat today, you will not die. Go hungry, and pray that by the next 5 years you are not going to be hungry. You are going to work yourself out of hunger and out of poverty. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erica, and thank you so much for your insights in this Code Africa conference, from also sharing your own experience. We would like to wish you an early happy birthday to you for the tomorrow, and thank you for participating in this space. We're looking forward to collaborating more, to sharing more, to building more, and to exercising more, and to upskilling ourselves. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All the best.
Thank you. Well, back to you again, our listeners of today. It's been really an amazing journey. Of the past 3 speakers, we have Felix from Kotani Pay telling us about how we have Felix of Kotani Pay giving us the key things that we need for us to build, to skill across Africa, right? That is bringing innovation and entrepreneurship together. And you mentioned really key 5 things, from the types of funders that you have, the type of skills that you need, the consistency that you need, investors. He talks about funding, It talks about registration of your own company. And if you did not manage to get it earlier, don't worry. We still have it. All our live sessions are recorded. I also want to give a shout out to Memoi Africa, our host today. Memoi Africa is a leading ecosystem of developers that are working hand in hand to make sure that we are nurturing and onboarding developers to Web3 ecosystem and other emerging technologies. And Memoi Africa has been participating in different types of services. They have hosted over 4 bootcamps, they have hosted over 4 hackathons. They have hosted over 2 bootcathons. Bootcathons is a combination of bootcamp and hackathons, whereby you are hacking as you learn, right? We also have partners with over 40 universities across 10 countries in Africa. We have also have Dev Hours. This is us coming to talk about experience. If you're having a challenge, if you really entice about developers and you have misconception, right? Don't miss our Dev Hunters. We have also Dev Hours. These are the technical sessions that each and every person needs for you to upskill in Web3. We also have Dev meetups. This is a physical meetups. We come together, network, see projects that we are doing here and there. We have talent fairs. Now, this is something that I Geeks are really big in as well. That is connecting our talents to the global market. How do we onboard our developers to make sure that they're not only upskilling, but they're getting great opportunities to put their own skills in work? We are also giving, we are doing a laptop campaign. This is for the undergraduate students in these campuses that we are partnered. We noticed that we need all tools for us to upskill, and that is one of the things. From the statistic, out of a percentage of 3,000 students, you get that 3,000 students, we have 40 students are not well equipped with tools to build and to code. And that's why Memoi Africa has partnered with these schools to make sure that we are having, the developers are having the necessary tools for them to build. And today Memoi is hosting one of its kind, that is for the Africa Conference. For the Africa Conference virtual edition, it's supposed to bring devs to come and learn, create network, and possibly experience qualified speakers and founders who have been in this space for over and over. They have been building, telling us experience that they have been doing, right? I hope you guys are tweeting. I hope you are tweeting. We are getting this outside. Shout out to Memoi technical lead as working so hard to make sure that we are having a red connection in this live session. We are having all the live going out. So I'll ask each and every person, go to your Twitter account, right? Post about what you've learned from the past speakers, from the David Lumala talking about decentralization, from Felix Macharia talking about bridging the innovation and the entrepreneurship, from Eric talking about from Eric Anan talking about the zero to mission, building the African developers. From founder of Web3, that is Ayodeji, talking about the powering the future of Web3 and sharing what they have been doing in Web3. So tag them on the sessions. Make sure you're tagging Ayodeji, tag David Lumala, tag also Eric Anan, tag their own also organization. That is Eric Anan, founder and CEO of Anan, founder and CEO of Aya. We have Ayodeji Awasaki, founder of Web3. We also have Felix Macharia, CEO of Kotani Bay. Share this. Please invite. You still have 2 hours. That's 2 hours before we finalize our today's sessions. We also have tomorrow. Tomorrow is a final day of God Africa Conference. And we're bringing lined up speakers as well to come and talk about our journey in Web3 session. And for that, Memoi Africa brought this for each and every person so that you see how do we really care and see and addresses the challenges that we are facing, right from the side of the developers. In this session, I'd like to shout out our partners. Yes, if you get to hear our partners as well, make sure you are doing that thing on Twitter. Tag, share. Let's share the link, invite. And our partners, starting from the workshop partners. Yes, from the workshop partners, we have Avalanche workshop. We have Quilla Audit workshop with the smart contracts. We have Polygon workshop. We have Super DAO workshop. We have Solana workshop. We have Didi workshop. We have Silo workshop. And Silo workshop is coming up today. We have also Spiron workshop coming up. Shout out to our community partners. Our community partners starting from the Aqua Labs, starting from the Alofry, Web3 Bridge, IIHQ, Kenya Blockchain Ladies Tao, Kiboko DAO and Dev Republic, Ofri Institute. We have Youth Tech Solutions. This is a STEM-based organization. We have Kenya NFT Club. Shout out to Meta Club, Teen Girls in Blockchain, Formal Weekly, Safari DAO, all the TDG in 15 countries. We are talking about Laikipia, Masamara, Puma University, Nairobi University, Nande. We also have Taiwan Web3 community, we have API community, Kenya community, we have Sharia Online, we have Women in DeFi, we have Web3 Africa as well. We are honored to have also the media partners who are the News Crypto and the Crypto Extra. And in this session, we are taking into breathe in and out. Yes. You take in, breathe and out. Make sure you are grabbing a glass of water as well. I don't have mine here. I have also you have step up your style for this. I have a water. Stretch a bit before we have our next sessions lined up for us as well. Invite. Use this time also to tweet on Twitter. Share past the lesson that you've learned from our past speakers. Also, what you have learned from me. Don't forget me. Yes, I go by the name Engineer John Jerobi LinkedIn and Jero Crypto in Twitter. What is one thing that you've liked here? Yes. What is something that has stand out? From this series of the speakers, the past 4 speakers, you have noticed that we are having the same things that we need to focus over and over. The seriousness, the consistency, the vision that we are bringing forth, the work, the hard work that you are putting in, the bridge that you are building for others to join the Web3. Right? All these are the necessary skills that we need for us to scale. The type of things that we need to us that makes us the competitive developers, not only developers, competitive founders, competitive tech industry in Africa. Because all resources goes back to being Web3 in East Africa to reach its potentials. Right? It's us to upgrade ourselves and to meet in the between what Web3 has built and what we are bringing to make it a successful nation. So tweet, share, post also on LinkedIn, on your IG, tag Memoir Africa. Memoir Africa is a leading developer ecosystem that is onboarding and nurturing developers into Web3 and other emerging technologies. And the key thing that we're doing is how do we build a scalable products at scale across Africa, but not only that, how do we create a leading and a competitive developers globally? And we have different services from the Dev Panthers, Dev Hours. These are technical ones. Dev Panthers are more of the experiences and growth. We have the boot camps, we have the hackathons, We have the Memorial University chapters, campus chapters. We have bootcathon system, bootcamp and hackathon combined. We have the talent fairs. We have the conference, right? And we are honored to have the first Code Africa conference virtual edition today and tomorrow. We'll have a conference, Code Africa physical edition, West East Africa edition in May, and Code Africa conference physical edition, West Africa edition in November. And each person are invited to be part of this great movement, to put in the skills that they have, the knowledge that they have, to be able to build a world-class developers. So please, show me some love. I'm showing you some love too. Show me some love. Let's tweet. Let's tweet. As we wait for our Orlando speakers, I'm going to read our Orlando speakers. We tag them the next session that we have. We'll have our CMO telling us about the journey of Memoy. Telling us the journey of Memoy for the past 6 months that we have been operational, what we have achieved, what we have done. And myself, I'm Engineer John Jerop. I serve community in Memoy and through Memoy Africa. And we have been working so much for some time with communities in several editions from the Safari DAO, from the Africa Blockchain Center. And all in all is how can we build a scalable products, but mostly I've been able to organize several Pan-African hackathons to be able to identify what is the need that is in the market, right? And we need to solve them. And we are here today to put more into that. And we have our dear friend giving us a health break. So let's have a health break. Memoy technical lead, could you please give us some music as we take the health break? Zara, could you please mute the background music before we start for the viewers of today? It's nice to have you, Sharon. Give us a minute before we start. Well, it is another amazing session again, and we are getting back to meet our amazing speakers of today. And we have Sharon Jebitok. Sharon Jebitok is a well-known developer in Web3. I know majority of you know Sharon. Sharon, she's an icon. She's also a friend to me. And based on what you are learning, actually, what I've learned from, excuse me. Sorry, yes. What I've learned today is the type of skills that you are building, from the empathy, from communication, from the support. This is something that I've actually got from Sharon Jebitok as a developer. I've got all the supports, right? The way of communicating. Sometimes it gets tougher, right? And we have the guys who are on our side. We have the guys who are on our side. Sorry guys, my dad is trying to join the live YouTube and he was asking me how to join it, and but yeah, there is somebody to help him. So yeah, at this moment we are welcoming Sharon Jebitok, who's software developer, but as I mentioned earlier, she's very known in Web3 space as a developer. She has also been putting out the work, promoting the developers' work, participating in the workshop, participating in the spaces. She's an icon in Twitter. I she loves it so much. It is amazing. So welcome today, Sharon. We are honored to have you. Could you please introduce yourself and go on?
I can hear you, but it's breaking. Okay, thank you. Hi everyone. So my name is Sharon Jebitok. I'm a software developer at Utu, and I'm happy to be part of the speakers for the Code Africa conference. So I'll be talking about unraveling Web3 protocols and Web3 standards. So starting with Web3 protocols. So Web3 protocols are fundamental building blocks of decentralized internet. They define the rules and specifications of how data is exchanged and processed across the distributed networks. So a simple example of the Web3 protocols are like the blockchain protocols like Ethereum, Solana, Polkadot, we have Tezos, and also Cardano. We'll still talk about the examples. So Web3 protocols allow the developers to build Web3 use cases. For example, the DeFi or decentralized finance, there is the NFTs, and even the DAOs. So with the Web3 protocols, since we have a lot of Web3 protocol, each protocol will define the characteristics of their protocol to be unique to the other. So you'll find they have these common characteristics, but the way this characteristic is implemented on maybe Ethereum is different with how it's done on Solana, but they're all trying to achieve the same thing. So some of the characteristics involve the decentralization, where we have the distributed ledger technology, the consensus mechanisms, and also tokenization. So you'll find on Ethereum, we have the ETH as the token. And then when you go to maybe Solana or maybe Polygon, we'll have the different token that is used on that network. Another aspect is on transparency. So every protocol has a way of trying to put their transactions and also data public. So for example, on Ethereum, we have the EVM chains, we have the blockchain explorers that if you visit a blockchain explorer and search a certain address, you'll get to see every transactions that have been made on that address, and you can also see other addresses that maybe have transacted with this given address. Also an aspect of open source. So I know most people have interacted with MetaMask, and if you visit MetaMask on GitHub, you'll be able to access the source code of GitHub, or even any project that claims to be decentralized will always have their code as open source. And also we have this governance, which is also not the way it's done on Web 2. It's done in an open manner. So another aspect is on security. So we have the aspect of cryptography, where, for example, on Ethereum, you'll commonly come across the SHA-256. And also we have an aspect of consensus mechanisms, the way the transactions are being verified, and also the smart contracts. So with the smart contracts, you'll find that on a network like Ethereum, they are written using Solidity. You go to Solana, it's written in Rust. And even there are some protocols that instead of having these smart contract programming languages, they'll just have some APIs or SDKs that developers can interact with. Another aspect is on interoperability, and you'll hear about multi-chain or cross-chain bridging. Also, an aspect of standardization, where, for example, on Ethereum, we have the ERC standards that will enable you to maybe write different tokens. For example, the NFTs has a specific ERC for it, and even the tokens that are being built using or created using the smart contracts. The types of Web3 protocols, we have the blockchain protocols, for example, Ethereum and Solana. This is very common. And then the communication protocols. There's an example of these storage networks, for example, the IPFS, Web3 storage, Aweave, and also the Web3 sockets. So this just helps with data exchange and communication. And then we have the identity protocols. This is something that is getting so common, especially this year. So we have the Unlock protocol, and I'm sure a lot of people heard about the World ID by WorldCoin, where people were giving the identity through the scan of the iris. And then, of course, the DeFi protocol. An example is Uniswap. So you'll find maybe this DeFi protocol, you can come across a DeFi protocol that is on Solana, one on Ethereum. So you can always implement a DeFi protocol on any blockchain protocol. When you go to Web3 standards, these are the guidelines and specifications that aim to promote consistency and interoperability across the decentralized ecosystem. So I earlier on talked about the ERC standards by Ethereum. So basically what they do is they are developed through open collaboration. So it could be between researchers and developers. So when you come across a protocol, you might find them hiring maybe researchers or developers who will help come up with the research for that chain or whatever standards they want to come up with. People will have to contribute to it. And even if a standard has been developed maybe early this year or some years back, you'll find that it always has improvements. So an example is the Ethereum standards. It's a good example because most of the developers building on Web3 have maybe built the smart or written the smart contracts. And mostly when you're writing the smart contracts, it will be easy to use the ERC standards. So like this one, it's contributed by researchers from Ethereum Foundation and also the builders in their ecosystem. We also have the JSON Web Token. If you have been able to build on Web3, you might have come across the JSON RPC API that you integrate to your projects, either on the front end, and mostly there are these RPC node providers like Alchemy, Infura, and maybe Tatum for the finance side of Web3. Then we have the decentralized identifier standards. This mostly goes with the identity protocol that I'd mentioned earlier on, and it governs the decentralized identity in terms of data exchange and access. At the end of the day, we all know that data is a sensitive thing, and if these identity protocols are, let's say, collecting or having a store of people's data, there should be some standards that also govern the way these protocols operate. So an example is just the Unlock protocol and World ID, though we have a lot of examples that are out there. When it comes to why do we need the web standards? One, it improves the development process when it comes to a case of developers or builders, because they don't have to create from scratch. They can use the standards that have already been built. So for example, for developers who are building on Ethereum or EVM compatible chains, so you mostly have to install the OpenZeppelin, because with OpenZeppelin you can access the ERC standards like the ERC20. Another thing is it enhances the interoperability between the decentralized application and the network. And it also creates a better user experience as it promotes user-friendly and consistent decentralized applications. So these are the importance of the Web3 standards. So just a summary, can say that the future of Web3 standards and also the Web3 protocols is ever evolving, and it calls for more research and implementations, in that we as maybe the builders or maybe the startup founders in Web3, you can think about some of these standards or protocols and try to implement it by yourself. And also, if you have an idea or an improvement, you can always visit those standards and suggest it. It can always be reviewed, and if it's reviewed, it can always be updated to the current one. And also, as developers and Web3 founders, whenever we are choosing the protocol, you want to also consider some factors like the programming language. So you can find there is a new protocol or an already existing protocol. So if you choose a protocol that uses a programming language that is not commonly used by developers, you might need to give them a learning path or a learning curve to understand that programming language before they start building. Another thing is some protocols, if you get to build on a given protocol, you're given access to some grants in terms of funding or things that will support your development process. Also, adoption, is this chain or is this protocol well adopted, or will I have to push for adoption more? and then the end users. So when we're talking about the standards, we say that some of these standards help with achieving a better user experience. So you don't want to maybe adopt or build on a given protocol that doesn't offer a good user experience because you might not have a lot of users using your product. Also, in terms of security, because we all know that a lot of things on Web3 are linked with tokens, and if there is no security, people will be cautious about their tokens or even their data being exploited. So that's all, and thank you to Code Africa for this event and also a chance to be part of the speakers.
So much, Sharon, for that amazing putting down on how do we go about Web3 protocols, the types of protocols that we have. I know majority of Kenyans, I don't know about other countries, but really the open, what do you call the WorldCoin, that is the identity protocol, really brought some aggressive thinking that people start thinking that, oh, this might be, I was looking at the memes and how this is converting to Illuminati, a lot of other conspiracies, right? How will you tell to a normal person about this protocol? Let's talking about identity protocols, noting that we know that there's a different types of protocol that we are using to create the security, the decentralization, the interoperability. How will you communicate this to a normal user?
It's a question.
Yes, it's a question. It's a question. I know you are a developer. But how do you really make it simple? How do you explain to earlier before Ayo was talking about how Web3 products are really far away from the users, right? Like you get that the developers and the guys who are building on Web3 are the only guys who understand the Web3, right? So he was looking at the scaling of the products that if you see at the other products, people are using it without even understanding what type of products of this, right? They can use the phones, they can go to YouTube, they can make calls without. Now, then there's Web3, which brings, when Web3 comes in the mind, most people think about the contracts, the developers, and all those. Like, they think about something that is so hard to achieve, right? So how will you break down to a normal users about these protocols, right? How you can use the example one which is WorldCoin, which is so disturbing and it is everywhere in the news. Yeah.
I think this question goes back to the whole idea about adoption, because if we don't make people first of all understand Web3, by the time we're coming to Web3 use cases like now World ID or the WorldCoin, it will be so hard because you find the people who are coming here or are using at the moment, as you have said, it's the developers or the people who just want to get those incentive tokens. But I would just say that it's all about having your identity in maybe in the internet or a place that anyone can access. It's not that they want to take advantage of your data, but they want to just the way we have the addresses, instead of having an address, we are now having an ID that can show maybe your profiles. It could be your social media or maybe your career profile. But now it won't be so easy to make people, let's say, understand or even buy this. But now we have to take them slowly and make them understand why do we need to collect their data, or back to that, those standards. Does this standard depict that their data will be safe or will have access to their data? I think that's some of the questions we have to maybe answer before we really have them accepting to have, to have them taking the IDs.
That is really correct. That is for sure. Eric and I was talking about that we are still fighting poverty. We are still looking for something that we are putting into the table. And whenever there's money, then there's attention. But I love the way you've said also that we need to make so much awareness for these communities that are building in Web3. The guys who are creating awareness in Web3 is we need to put so much emphasis, right? We need to eliminate people, to educate people that this is what we are doing and this is why we are doing and this is the something that is happening, right? Because I'm looking at everyone, people are like, oh, one can come and take one of my eye. There's a lot of stories. But we are really grateful for this session, for taking us through the types of Web3 protocols that we have, right? And the type of security and what Web3 is trying to achieve. Thank you so much, Sharon. Follow Sharon Jebitok at Twitter handles. I know all of you know her, but if you don't know her, go to the Twitter. She posts so much about the Web3 developers, what is happening in the Web3 world, when there's everything that's coming up. So make sure you follow her to get all the updates that you need. On the other hand, our listeners are back here. Hello. So follow Memoir Africa as well on the Twitter. Tweet about what is happening on Africa Conference. Hashtag on Africa Conference. Tag Memoir Africa. Also tag every speaker. In the next session, we are going to have our amazing speaker. Following up Sharon Jebitok. Yes, we are going to have real audits following up Sharon Jebitok in the next few minutes. Sorry for that. I was notifying him that we need you. Meanwhile, post what you learned from what Sharon shared. Sharon was more of the deep side, on the technical side, right? At this time, we are coming to learn about the smart. Is it correct? Okay. Yes, we have Idris first in a speaking slot before Sharon. Yes. Meanwhile, tweet, share the post, share what you have in Code Africa. Code Africa Conference is a developer-themed event, and it's hosted by Memoir Africa. Memoir Africa is a leading ecosystem for developers who are working hand in hand to onboard and nurture developers ecosystem with different types of services. And Memoir Africa has been able to host more than 4 bootcamps, more than 4 hackathons, more than 4 dev pantas, more than 4 dev hours. We have also hosted workshops, we have also hosted meetups, and we have also hosted meetups. We have also worked with 40 plus universities across 10 countries to make sure that we are upskilling and onboarding the developers. And today we have one of its kind of the Memoir initiative. That's called Africa Conference. The Code Africa Conference is a developer-themed event whereby we come together, create, learn, develop, execute, but mostly important network and know where we are so that we are able to execute to build the products that scale across Africa, right? But also put ourselves as the leading developer in a competitive nature globally. And right now we're going to have Idris Olubisi, Axela Developer Relation, and also founder of Web3 Africa. And it's going to take us to read about smart contract development with Solidity, a beginner's guide. I know a lot of you love this Solidity, so you don't need to miss it. Invite your friends, bring them to this session. Let them know that we have Idris Olubisi. Idris has been doing a lot in the space. In fact, the previous speakers still shouted on them, that is Ayodezi and also Eric, and now talk about the work that Web3 Africa are doing in the nation to make sure that we are onboarding and upskilling developers to the Web3, to the global Web3 movement. Welcome, Idris.
All right. Thank you very much. I believe I'm audible. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Can you hear me? Sorry, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, Idris. Seems Idris has dropped off, but he'll be able to join us as soon as possible.
All right. I think I'm back. Yeah, sorry about that. I was trying to figure out what happened. But then, yeah, let's get right into it. Thank you so much for the introduction, Joanne. I really appreciate that. And also, thank you all for joining this session. So let me just quickly share my screen and then we get right into the business for the day. Okay. All right. So thank you for joining once again. My name is Idris Olubisi, and I'm really excited to be here to talk about things that are really important in this space. You know, we've seen like past speakers talking about how we can get involved, what are some of the things we should do, and also investing time into development. And of course, it's not only development, like or considering developers alone, but also people that are actively contributing into the space, right? So today's session will be talking about smart contract development with Solidity, a beginner's guide. Ideally, this is meant to take around an hour plus, but due to time constraint and, you know, we also want to make sure that all of you benefit from all other amazing speakers within this space, right on this stream. So I will be kind of introducing why we needed Solidity, what Solidity is all about, some of this snippet that you might have come across online, and also how you can build, test, compile application, and also deploy those applications after building them on testnet or mainnet. We'll also be taking a look at some of these other environment that you can build your smart contracts on and also deploy it to production. All right, moving on. My name is Idris Olubisi once again. I'm a developer advocate at Axela and also the founder of Web3 Africa and the Polygon Guild Lagos lead. You can find me on all socials at Olanesoft. So I just want to kind of quickly talk about like, you know, things we'll be going through in this talk. We'll quickly go through an introduction to blockchain. We'll talk about smart contracts and why is there a need to use Solidity in the first place. And also we also talk about Solidity basics and syntax, some of the development tools available for you as a developer, best practices, and also security consideration. And then if time permits, we quickly do a short demo to see how you can build, compile, and also deploy smart contracts. Let me hide this. Okay, so first to start with, do you even have idea about what blockchain is in the first place, right? I know tons of speakers have talked about things that we want to improve on, but the reality is, do we even know what blockchain is all about? What are some of the things that we should understand that is happening under the hood for you to get to know or have an idea of how the blockchain works and what exactly the blockchain is? Don't worry, I'll be explaining in the next slide on what to expect and also what are some of the things that currently powers the blockchain and also make the blockchain kind of robust and really powerful for our decentralized application. So now, talking about the blockchain, a simple definition I would like to always refer blockchain as is a digital ledger that simplifies, processes for you. In this case, a digital ledger that simplifies transactions. Sorry about that. So a digital ledger that simplifies, a digital ledger of transactions where you have like duplicated and then distributed across computer networks. So I would like to give an analogy on how this works, right? What do I mean by duplicating, across the network and also like duplicating across all the computer systems? So think of blockchain like a digital version of a public ledger in a particular library. So every time a new book is added to that library, a record of that particular addition is made in all copies to all of the public ledger in that particular library. So it means that in blockchain now, putting that into like what blockchain looks like. So every transaction is duplicated across all of this ledger within that particular network. So this makes information highly transparent, and also it also makes it difficult to alter because now you have like all other systems that have existing record of that particular transaction, which means that you can't manipulate because all of these systems are kind of in sync with each other. So there is no way to manipulate that particular information in a particular network because that copy is already saved across thousands of other network or thousands of computers or nodes within that particular network. And also with this process, it also help to improve security and trust, right? So, but then is blockchain, because the title of this and all that in a couple of slides. I know a couple of you might be, familiar with this picture or have seen this logo before, which is McDonald's. I want to share a quick story behind why we even need Solidity and also the whole idea about blockchain. So from 1989 to 2001, there were almost no legitimate winners of the high-value game pieces in the Monopoly game. So what happened is that within this era, McDonald's announced that, there will be a particular game, a game called Monopoly, like a Monopoly game, where everyone could literally participate and also get to win, right? But within this era which took about 12 years, there isn't any legitimate winners of this particular game. So which means that this system is kind of being controlled internally, and also it's not transparent to anyone to keep track of what is going, what are some of the process, leaderboards, like the actual leaderboards, and also getting all of these rewards being automated. So the issue here is trust, and also it's not transparent. So this is where smart contract steps in, right? So smart contract itself, which I'll be explaining in detail, is something that can be used to achieve this particular game and also making it publicly to everyone to access, and at the same time transparent for anyone to see what is going on within that particular network. You don't need to trust anybody for actions to happen within the smart contract, in as much as has been written and then coded on that particular smart contract and deployed on the network. It means that all of the interaction happening will be visible in as much the contract is verified and also open to the public. So now let's talk about smart contract itself. Now you know a use case like 1 out of 1,000 use cases that you can leverage smart contract and the blockchain. But then smart contract itself, it's very important to talk about what exactly it is, right? It is a self-executing contract with the terms and agreements that can be set between a buyer and a seller. And this type of agreement is written into like line of codes and can be deployed on the blockchain. So now if, for example, you have an agreement, maybe you're a developer or you're a freelancer, and you want to build a website for someone, and this particular person is ready to pay you when that website is 50% completed. So you can have this agreement orally, and then when it's 50% completed, the person pays you. But what if the person decides to, change, or for some reason the person says, hey, it's 2 days before I pay you for this particular tax, but then I think I'm having financial issues and all of these things. So these agreements are type of agreement that you can write on your smart contract and deploy to the on chain, right? So which means that you can tell the smart contract to say, hey, when it's exactly this time of the day or this time of the day in a particular month, deduct this particular amount and then transfer it to this particular account. So with all of these permissions required being granted for this to happen, and also this contract being deployed on the network, it means that there is no way that particular interaction won't happen in as much that contract has been written, compiled, tested, and deployed on the network. And when I mean network, I'm talking about the blockchain itself. So smart contract itself automatically executes all of this interaction, and also you don't need like external participation for that particular action to happen, or you don't need like to keep track. In as much all of these things are being encoded into the system, it should definitely happen. Similarly, the smart contract automatically carries out like agreement, which I mentioned earlier, and also you can also set a rule. All of these rules, agreements between buyers and seller, and any of these things, this goes beyond buyers and sellers, right? Depending on your use case, all of these things, as which is written and encoded within the smart contract and deployed on the network, it is definitely going to automatically execute. So moving on, so it's clear now that blockchain is not smart contracts, right? The blockchain, it's a system on its own. Why a smart contract is where you have your agreement written and then deployed on the blockchain. So let's quickly take a look at some of the Solidity basics and syntax that you can use to achieve these agreements I made mention earlier on. So for example, I want to like quickly touch on some of these things, which are like basic syntax that you can get familiarized with, or like you might have seen within this space. Maybe you have gone through a particular project, or you have seen existing contracts online. But there's something called variables in Solidity, which is used to save a particular information. So variables, like you might be familiar with other like protocols, or other programming languages, they work pretty much the same way. But then, now we are talking about Solidity in this case. So, for example, here, this is an example of how a smart contract looks like, right? So you'll see this XPDS license identifier, which means that this XPDS means the software package data exchange, and then the license is used, which this is an identifier that is used following a particular software license. So in this case, we are using MIT. So this is a permissive software that anyone can literally utilize. That's why we have it here. So you always need to specify what license you are using to run any given contract. In as much you have defined this at the top of your contract, you are good to go. So, and then we have the Pragma Solidity, which is indicating the compiler version that is required for these contracts to compile and also get executed. So in this case, I'm referencing anything above 0.8.0, right? And then we have this contract identifier, which identifies that, we are creating a contract called example, right? And then we have variables yeah, that is currently being declared here. The first one here is integer variables. The second one is, public bool, where we have is active, which is a Boolean variable that you can use to set, true or false value. And then the last one here is the public user address. This is an address variable that you can use to, set a user address. You should, take note of all of these identifiers here that I currently have on this screen. For example, you can see int, you can see bool, you can see addresses. This means different times and also for different use cases. So moving on, it doesn't end here. We also have functions, just like we have in other programming languages, where you create functions and also set a particular rule or actions that is going to happen within that function. So in this case, for example, we have this variable here with the type of private. I would explain what that means in the next, few slides. And then in this case, we are creating a variable called store data, and then we created a function named set that takes in a particular parameter here, which is an integer. Uint in this case means integer, and then you pass in that particular parameter. And this function is also public. I'll show you all of these differences: public, private, view returns in the code example that will be running later in this session on Remix, for you to see how all of these things work with those identifiers. So in this case, what we are doing here is that once we are setting any variable or any number passed in here, and then we are storing it into the variable called store data. And then the other one, we are using it to retrieve the information that has been stored into this variable called store data, which basically is defining a function name called get, and then making it publicly accessible, and then also indicating that this function returns an integer. And then in this case, we already know that the value we are passing here is an integer, and then we are also saving it into the store data. So when you want to retrieve, you just returns public integer, which is the value that is stored in this particular variable. So we also, have tons of other things within the Solidity programming language. To add to what I've mentioned earlier, you can see I mentioned Boolean, and now here I'm defining a Boolean and then setting it to a default value, and also utilizing the integer, the uint that I mentioned earlier, where I'm setting a variable to 1, 2, 3, and the same thing for public address. But then what is different here is this type of data type here that I want to pinpoint in this particular slide is, you will notice that we have something like struct and then called person. So in case you have dynamic values that you want to set on your own, this gives you more options to do all of these things. So the elementary types that I mentioned earlier are bool, uint, integers, and addresses. But then the complex types are arrays, structs, and mapping. So this takes this allow you to do most complex things, just like we have in every other programming language. So an example that I gave here is setting a struct. So a struct of a person, and then we are taking into consideration that this person, if you want to create a person, the person needs to have an identifier and also a name. So if I'm creating Ayo, for example, Ayo will have an ID and then would have a name. So in the example underneath this particular example that I referenced here, I'm creating a person variable that saves in a person struct. So if you call this person now, you can have access to either the ID or the name itself. So in this example, the ID here is 1, and then the name is Alice, right? So you can dynamically enter all of these things. You can do a lot of amazing things like dynamically setting a struct and also setting what should be stored in this particular, in this particular struct or variable that you define. So just to summarize the whole thing, how a basic structure of the Solidity contract looks like, we have the license at the top, we have the compiler version, and then we have the simple contract. So in this example, I'm creating a very simple contract that has a public count, you have a function, and you also have a function that increments that particular count, which is similar to the example I gave earlier where you store a particular value, an integer, into a variable. So this is what a Solidity contract looks like. You can check like sites, publicly available contracts on Uniswap, any of these contracts that have already, gone live, and they have a contract deployed on the mainnet. All of these contracts are verifiable, and then you can take a look at how the structure looks like. They are in this pattern. Of course, they are way more complicated than just this simple, contract that I'm using for everyone currently on this call to understand what I'm talking about. So now you know what Solidity is, what blockchain is, and also some of these basic syntax that you can utilize in Solidity. But then what are some of the development tools that you can utilize to build this your amazing or incredible smart contract or your amazing decentralized application? Because if you have your smart contract and you want users to interact with your smart contract, it means that you need to connect a front-end application that interact directly with your smart contract, so you can easily share the URL of that front-end application to your users for them to have access to the application. And then under the hood, the front-end application is communicating with the smart contract. So let's talk about development tools that are available and also testing tools. So I've listed like integrated development environment that you can utilize here as a developer to build your smart contracts. Not just building, but also building, compiling, and also testing your smart contract. So an example here is Remix. It's like the most popular web-based integrated development environment, which is short form for IDE in short form. Where you can compile, build, and also deploy your Solidity, your smart contracts that you have written with Solidity. Another example here, which is also an online web-based IDE, is Chain IDE. And then, of course, Visual Studio Code. If you're a developer and you're already familiar with coding, you already know Visual Studio Code. You can also utilize this because it even offers Solidity extension, syntax formatting, highlighting, code snippets that can easily integrate into the Visual Studio Code, and you also use for testing and building, compiling, and deploying your smart contract on testnet or mainnet. So moving on, development framework. I mentioned that you have like testing tools and also development framework earlier on. So, but then if you want to build with, for example, a web-based IDE, everything happens on the web. But what if you want to compile, you want to do all of this process, you want to create like a project, a very complex project, and you want to have like a framework for all of these developments. Or maybe you have team across, Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, that are all working on the same project, and you want to utilize a Git version control, where you could have people contribute, test, and also, test and compile contracts. These are some of these framework available for you that you can utilize during your development. An example here is Hardhat. Another example is Foundry. Another example is Truffle Suite. All of these things, they kind of do similar things, but then Hardhat is the most popular here. And also with Hardhat, you can